Welcome to another tutorial video. Today we're going to be discussing a topic that I'm sure you are not sick of, which is AI and specifically AI startups and how they recognize or sometimes hallucinate revenue. And the reason I got to thinking about this is because a few weeks back I saw this tweet from Scott Stevenson about contracted ARR and how it creates what he calls a huge scam in AI startups. And he points out that in a lot of cases these companies will sign deals with escalating prices and then they'll recognize annualized recurring revenue or claim annualized recurring revenue based on the year 3 price rather than the heavily discounted current year 1 price. And I thought it would be useful to go into some of these definitions and terms and show how it can create a very misleading picture of what these companies do. So ever since ChatGPT released back in late 2022, hallucinations have been a problem with chatbots and various AI tools. They have become more reliable over time, and the hallucinations are more manageable, at least if you know the subject, or you can update the data or make sure it's doing a web search or something like that. At the same time though, a lot of AI startups seem to be hallucinating their revenue, or at least not understanding the difference between revenue as measured on a GAAP or IFRS basis, annualized recurring revenue, run rate revenue, contracted recurring revenue, or contracted annualized recurring revenue, and then there are also bookings and billings. Now we can't go through all of these here, and we actually have a separate tutorial on bookings and billings and a few other metrics in this list, but I do want to focus on the difference between annualized recurring revenue and then contracted annualized recurring revenue. Essentially, what this creates is a situation where you can have all these different revenue metrics: GAAP revenue, run rate revenue, annualized recurring revenue, and then CARR, or contracted annualized recurring revenue, and they all tell you completely different things. According to one metric, the company is at 9 million in recurring revenue. According to another metric, it's more like 6 million, and then according to another one, it's at 4 million. And then if you actually look at what their revenue is at right now, according to GAAP, it's more like 500,000 or less. So you get some very divergent outcomes, and unfortunately the media just buys into anything that these companies claim in most cases without questioning anything, and that makes the problem even worse. So for all the files and resources here, you'll want to go to our CARR versus ARR page within our venture capital section of the site and the knowledge base. I will pin this URL below the video as the first comment. This is related to topics in our VC and growth equity course, but I do want to be clear that this is not directly covered in the course, so it's not a direct excerpt. Instead, it's more related to some of the material that is taught in the course as part of other case studies. So I'm going to start with the short version here and go through some of the Excel setup. Then we'll look at the Excel setup and formulas in more detail. I will explain how public companies also get this question about annualized recurring revenue wrong. We'll look at the subtext behind ARR and explain why it matters. And then we will explain how to deal with AI startups that seem to be hallucinating their revenue, or at least some of their revenue metrics. With annualized recurring revenue, there are a couple of key principles. First off, the sales that you count in this should correspond to annual contracts or multi-year contracts with no early cancellation options. So in other words, if a client signs a contract in May, to be meaningful for ARR, it should really not have a cancellation option before May of the next year. So it should be for a 1-year fixed contract. Now, some people will tell you that you can annualize monthly contract revenue, and it's not necessarily wrong to do this, but we do think it's a little bit more questionable if you're analyzing month-to-month contracts because they can be canceled so easily. Also, these contracts should have fixed pricing that's set in advance, and it should be based on users or company size rather than usage. If the pricing is based on usage, or a large portion of it is, then by definition it's not recurring because the usage could always change over time. Another requirement is that the ARR should be based on annualizing the revenue over a reasonable period, such as taking 1 month of revenue or 1 quarter of revenue and then multiplying by 12 or 4. You can't just take 1 day of revenue when you have a big sale or a product launch and then annualize that. You can't take 1 hour of revenue and annualize that. And I've seen crazy things like that happening in this space. And then finally, annualized recurring revenue cannot correspond to usage-based revenue. It can't correspond to token revenue from processing AI tokens or having other services doing it and then charging a markup on them. It can't be for services, it can't be for license fees, royalties, transaction fees, nothing like that. Why this matters is that Many AI startups offer heavily discounted subscription plans and services to win new customers. Then they plan to raise the prices over time, and they count the eventual price within their current ARR, and they try to claim that's what their growth rates currently look like based on this expected future revenue that may or may not arrive. Beyond the obvious problems, which is that the customer could cancel before then, it's also problematic because churn rates in the AI space tend to be higher. Companies are often trialing and canceling these products quite easily, so it's quite unlike traditional enterprise software where, because of the deeper integrations that are required and the fact that in a lot of cases there aren't nearly as many companies operating in this space, it's just harder to switch out. It's more deeply integrated. And so for those reasons, this creates some major issues. The bottom line is that we think the concept of ARR may not actually make much sense for companies that mostly sell AI based on usage, services, or unprofitable subscriptions. So you should rely on other metrics. So the basic scenario here is that we have a high growth AI startup with revenue from subscriptions, tokens, and implementation services. Now, the contracts here are for 3 years, but they're cancelable at the end of each year. So they're not really 3-year contracts. They're really 3-year agreements that are based on 1-year contracts with cancel options in between, and they tend to scale up over time. 200,000 to 400,000 to 600,000 per year, or 100 to 400,000, or maybe something like 600,000 to 800,000 to 1 million. Something like that is the normal pattern here. The subscription revenue should be based on the year 1 contract values divided by 12, and then you extend this across the months of year 1. So let's look at an example for the subscription revenue. The first thing we want to do here is look at the month number that we're currently in, and if this is greater than or equal to the month number that we're measuring over on the left-hand side, then we want to look up the revenue for this specific month. So let's take the number 1 right here, and we're going to look up the value of the new contracts that were signed in month 1. To do that, we'll go up to our months here at the top, and then we'll go down to our contract values from this period, and I'll say 0 if we're not in that month, and then we'll divide by 12, because of course, if we sign a contract for 200,000 per year in January, we can't recognize all 200,000 in January. We have to spread it out over the 12 months of the year. So let's take this and copy it over and around. And so we have that. We can then add this up, and I can copy this over to the side. And you can see how it grows from about 16 or 17,000 to over 350,000 by the end. Now for the annualized recurring revenue, it's actually very similar, but we're not going to divide by the months in this case. Since we are dealing with 1-year subscriptions, we do think it is valid to take the annual values here for year 1 of each contract and then say that is the annualized recurring revenue that was earned in this specific month. So let's take this and copy it around, and then we can add up all these. So all this is fine so far. Obviously, it's very aggressive if we quote these ARR numbers of 4.4 million, but technically it's fine because we're using the year 1 contract values, and these are actual annual contracts. Now, where it gets tricky is when startups start going in and they look at the final value or ultimate value of these contracts and they try to claim ARR based on that. So for this one, let's copy and paste down our formula. And then here, instead of going to row 1 for the year 1 value, let's go down to row 19 for the year 3 value. And let's copy this over. We can add this up and copy it across, and we get to the claimed ARR based on that with the year 3 contract values. So if you look at this on a GAAP basis and you just add up all the revenue sources here, the subscription revenue we can take from above, and then the usage-based revenue for tokens. So this one is based on a percentage of the year 1 contract values. So we can just do a cumulative sum of all these year 1 values. We can multiply by our percentage up here, and then we'll divide by months, because presumably if they spend 200,000 on the contract in year 1, the token spending is also going to be spread out over the course of a year. And then finally, for the services revenue, we can go up and take the subscription revenue, and this is just a percentage of this, 15% of this. We can sum this up, and we can copy this across. Now, the gross profits tend to be lower for AI companies than they do for traditional enterprise software companies, but the subscriptions do sometimes have the highest margin of these. So we're saying 50%, 30%, and 10% here. So let's take the subscription revenue and multiply by the 50%. We will then copy and paste this down, and I'll fix up the anchoring so this keeps going down as we copy it down and over. And so we can see that we get to around a 42 or 43% margin here. Still decent, but probably more like what you'd expect for a hardware company like Apple, as opposed to a traditional enterprise software company. And that is part of the issue here. So taking everything together now, the GAAP revenue here is simply the revenue line here. The ARR, as we define it and as it should be defined, should be what we have up here for the year one contract values that the company enters into each month, summed up over time. Now there is something called the run rate revenue as well. And for this one, we can take our revenue in 1 month and just multiply by the number of months in the period. So 12 here. And then there is what we call the claimed ARR or contracted ARR, which is what a lot of startups will try to do. They will go up and say, let's take the ARR based on the year 3 contract values. And then let's sum up our usage revenue and our services and implementation revenue, and let's multiply that by 12. So they are essentially annualizing everything, even though the usage-based revenue and the services revenue are clearly not recurring sources here. And then if you copy this across, you can see that we get to the situation I outlined in the beginning before, that if you go based on the most aggressive definition, it looks like the company is up to 9 million annualized by the end. But if you go with saner definitions, it's more like 4 to 5 million. And if you actually look at revenue earned over the course of the year, it's more like 2.7 million. So that's the crux of the issue. And I think the graph makes it clear just how big a potential issue this is. The point of ARR is to approximate something that'll happen with 100% certainty over the next year, but a lot of startups will go out and fundraise based on these types of fake CARR metrics and hope that investors and the media do not ask questions. Now, one other point I want to make here is that a lot of public companies also get ARR wrong, and you might think it's just limited to startups, but I have up here the investor presentation for this company, SoundHound AI, and they literally say in their presentation that they consider subscription revenue to consist of revenue per month, per location, per lane, also revenue from usage-based fees, and revenue per query, and these last two are definitely not subscription revenue. So if we were looking at a company like SoundHound and they broke their revenue out into subscriptions, royalties, and monetization, it's not entirely clear that we'd be able to analyze this company appropriately because it looks like they've misclassified a lot of what goes into their subscription revenue. I also want to discuss a little bit the subtext behind ARR. A lot of online sources will give you the calculations and examples, but they don't really describe the meaning or the purpose or the subtext for it. With traditional ARR for a software company, the company usually has high gross margins, which means that it's easier to earn a cash profit on this ARR. So a lot of traditional enterprise software companies will have gross margins of 70% or higher, but they tend to be much lower for AI companies because inference costs are high. They might even classify some training costs within their cost of goods sold or cost of services. So you tend to see much lower margins. Sometimes you even see negative margins for these companies, especially in year 1 of the contract. The other implicit assumption about why ARR is useful is that the retention rates tend to be high and predictable, so it actually tells you something reasonable about the future. Not just about this year, but it can pretty reasonably tell you what might happen next year or the year beyond that as well. Traditionally, enterprise SaaS had churn rates of 10%, maybe up to 20% in some cases, but a lot of AI companies seem to have much higher rates of around 30 to 40%. I couldn't find much real substantial data on this, but I have seen this quoted in a couple different sources, and I think it is fair to assume that the churn rates or cancellation rates are quite a bit higher. And you can see this if you look at any traditional enterprise SaaS company's numbers. You will see gross margins in the 70 to 80% or even 80 to 90% range. This particular company, a cybersecurity company, actually had a somewhat higher churn rate. If you go through and look at their numbers, I'm showing you on screen right now, it was more like between about 10 to 20%, sometimes 20% in certain periods. But even that is actually lower than what a lot of AI startups experience. To wrap things up, how do you actually deal with this? What should you look at when you are working with or analyzing one of these companies? The first thing I would say is that if it is a true AI company that is mostly earning revenue based on usage fees or tokens or even services, focus more on GAAP revenue and apply lower valuation multiples to it. It's simply less visible than true subscription revenue. The margins tend to be lower, so there isn't really a case for even using ARR as a metric in this case. What you want to do instead is focus on metrics like the gross retention and the net retention and the gross margins to see how sticky the product is and to see what the company's eventual cash flows might look like. And then finally, don't take subscription revenue or annualized recurring revenue at face value in this vertical. You always want to ask for a breakout of the revenue by source or the calculation methods used and see if they're actually reasonable or if the company's bending the truth too much. So that's about it. Let's do a quick recap and summary now. The short version is that a lot of AI startups are heavily exaggerating their performance, and they're using metrics like the contracted ARR to quote numbers that are 2 or 3 times higher than what their actual ARR is. And there's an even bigger differential if you look at something like their monthly revenue, for example. I showed you some Excel examples of how to set up these formulas and what the typical AI revenue profile looks like, where there are subscriptions, there's usage-based revenue from tokens, and there's also services and implementation revenue. Public companies like SoundHound also get the definition of subscription revenue and ARR wrong, so you have to be very careful even when working with larger, more established companies. Normally ARR matters because it tells you something about visibility and the gross margins on revenue, but for AI companies, the gross margins tend to be a lot lower, sometimes they're even negative, and the retention rates also tend to be lower with higher churn and higher cancellation rates, so we think it is generally less meaningful for these types of firms. To deal with this issue, you can simply focus more on GAAP revenue, you can focus more on the margins and the retention metrics, and if the company does have subscription revenue, that can be fine, but you really have to dig in and ask for details about how they calculated it. If they're claiming something for annualized recurring revenue, it can also be fine, but you really have to ask the details and see how they're calculating it, see what goes into it, see the different line items. So don't just take what they say at face value. That's about it for this tutorial. Hopefully now you know a little bit more about what the revenue profile of an AI startup might look like and why you have to be careful with annualized recurring revenue and variations like contracted annualized recurring revenue.